I'm really sorry, I have got my notes here because my own neurodivergent brain might at some point go into meltdown and forget everything I was going to say. So I will be referring to them. And I move around a lot and they've tied me to this. So I'm going to be jumping up. I really irritate people in meetings because I get up and walk around because it's the best way I think. So positive change. What drives positive change? One of my favourite questions to ask, and the response from a lot of people, particularly in this sector, is often money. But actually, money doesn't drive change. Money is a part of change. It sometimes facilitates it. Sometimes you're even saving money with positive change, but it's not a driver. Oh, so what really drives change? Changes in environment, changes in attitudes, identification of a need, and my personal favourite, idealism. But positive change is really hard. There's always another side of all of those wonderful positive ideas that you have. How do you identify if change is positive? Just because you've thought of a brilliant idea that will change things, it doesn't mean it's going in the right direction. In this world where a lot of discourse has been reduced to headlines and 200 and something character tweets, it's often the loudest perspective or the harshest point that carries the road to change, rather than necessarily the fact and the common sense. What's positive to one group may impact another negatively, or someone else might be doing something different that you don't know about that could actually mess up your brilliant idea. I'm going to give you an example of perspective because that's what we're talking about. We can see change happening all around us, particularly within neurodiversity in this sector at the moment, and this amazing event is evidence of that. You wouldn't have got this 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Things are moving and changing. So I believe everything starts with effective education. So I'm going to use the current description of SEND to identify what I mean about perspective. It's one of my favourite examples of perspective, actually. Who here, and I want a show of hands, sees this basic factual statement by the government to describe SEND and special educational needs and disabilities as you know, just a basic, solid, factual statement that things are built on? Anyone else? This is the basic, fundamental place that SEND starts from. I'm going to come back to this in a moment, because for those people who did put their hands up, I'm going to challenge that perspective. When those experts who create programs ask the question, how does a child learn to read? They change that question to how does the average child learn to read? And they work to the average. If we only ever work to the average, that is the best we will ever achieve. This is something I stole from a man called Sean Akor. If you haven't seen his TED Talk, go and watch it. It's one of the best TED Talks around. He used fake data to make his point. This is a graph, and I've lost my notes. This is a brilliant graph which identifies the difference between the capacity someone has to learn and their ability to access education. Now, someone could, you know, the data in the middle there is the average, mainstream. It's what we're working towards. Where would neurodiversity sit on this graph in reality? The truth is, it could sit anywhere. You could have someone with a massive capacity to learn, but an inability to access the education as it's delivered in the mainstream framework. You could have someone who sits at the lower level of capacity to learn, but functions actually pretty well in a mainstream environment. You could be anywhere. and it's down to the individual as to whether or not that framework is going to support them. So now I come back to this description. Why does something as small as this paragraph matter? It matters because this is the perspective from which all service delivery strategy is built. This is how people are viewed who have a specialist educational need. But it identifies the individual as an outlier, as an anomaly that cannot access learning. If you change the perspective, you can start to expand the approach. If you edit the description to identify that it is the framework that has the limitations instead of the child, you can actually start to expand and move and change the approach to fit the child rather than expecting everyone to fit inside a standard framework. Now, in my opinion, that's common sense. And common sense would then prevail. The framework can meet a need much more effectively because it's recognizing its own limitations. And when it comes to neurodiversity, the perspective needs to change. We need to be far more ambitious for our young people. Academics is not always, and certainly not, the only way forward. Mainstream education needs to expand its thinking, open its rather inflexible and very well-structured mind, and start to include the wonderful and exciting alternative education programs, vocational learning, and more accessible qualifications. That sounds really idealistic, doesn't it? I did say idealism was my favourite place to be. Idealism is wonderful, and it's a huge part of positive change. It's the exciting part, actually, where the neurons fire and all of the ideas come from. But the next step to positive change for me is data. Now, as I mentioned before, I'm neurodivergent myself, and my brain always goes straight to the data, the facts. What does it say? The collation of information, the mapping of the picture, understanding the possibilities and the impact of every step you take. I call it seeing the whole mountain. Actually, if you live with a view of Everest your whole life, and someone provides you with a picture of Everest from the other side, you're not even going to recognize it as the same mountain. Across the SEND sector right now, the mountain's covered in fog. The Education Committee described it some years ago as a treacle of bureaucracy, not just for parents and carers, actually, but for sector professionals, for caseworkers, for teachers, for everyone in the sector. When my son first went through the process, some years ago now, if you asked 3 sector professionals the same question, you would get at least 3 different answers, if not more. There are so many services a family has to research, and not just public sector or charities in the SEND sector or education. For people with additional needs, those services we take for granted are difficult. Finding a hairdresser who could cut my autistic son's hair changed my life. Literally. Because honestly, brushing that hair was a nightmare. Huge meltdowns. I still haven't found a dentist he'll open his mouth for. There's specialist clothing, additional therapies, accessible activities, alternative education programs. It's a research nightmare for every step you take. Daily life can be a real struggle, and families often feel isolated. The seemingly never-ending barriers and slow-moving process, it can feel like a constant battle that just leaves you drained. But focusing on the bad means all the amazing work that is happening out there, and it is getting lost. It drives a negative culture of blame and adversity. Instead of cultivating a collaborative environment where people are working together for the benefit of the individual, people are angry all the time. and improving equality of opportunity to education and employment in daily life for the individual benefits the whole of society. Another thing we have to take into account when we're considering change is language. Some of my favourite words: equality, diversity, inclusion. These are all designed to be positive, to have a positive impact on employers, on organisations, on service delivery providers, on schools. But for many, they've become a minefield where you can fall down all too easily, where if you don't quite understand or don't get what's going on, you're going to find yourself in trouble. Being judgmental of people who are still learning and still understanding what these things mean, or who don't quite get it right, that's another driver of negativity. We're far better off, instead of shouting them down and telling them how wrong they are, to teach them why these words are positive, why they're a good addition to what they're doing. And of course, people. People are often really afraid of change, really afraid. New things are regarded with great suspicion, especially in my area, because I work in technology. That's terrifying to people. Who's heard this from a team member before? Anyone? Yeah, look, lots of nodding going on. I certainly have. I once started a process, designed it, built it, put it in place, handed it over to a team member who had been with us literally a matter of weeks. A couple of weeks later, I said, it's not working. I need to change the process. It's not efficient. She went, but we've always done it like this. I said, you've been here weeks. You know, people are afraid of change, and you have to bring people with you. Not browbeat them into submission, not bully them. You have to make them as excited about your change as you are. So the way forward: no one organisation has the capacity to deliver to every need. It's just not physically possible. It'd be lovely if we could have one organisation that was just delivering, but the truth is we can't. There's only one way forward to achieve positive change, and that's collaboration. Working together, seeing the benefits of new ideas, learning to collaborate effectively towards a common goal. Being transparent about services, not being frightened of the data and what it may show about the past. That's a big problem. Because what that willingness to be transparent shows about the present is that you're actively supporting positive change across the sector now and in the future. We might identify some negatives that happened in the past, but it's important to know what they are. It's not a danger to your organisation. So collaboration is hugely important. Transparency. These are really big words, and a lot of people really struggle with them. And common sense. Common sense seems to me, in my experience of working through services to access support for my son, to be pretty much at its lowest ebb ever. And we need to start bringing that back. So, Send Unlocked, that's me. Send Unlocked are a charity, unless if you'd like to donate, support, sponsor, get involved, we'd be enormously grateful. We recognise that there are already thousands of organisations available to provide support. We don't need to do that. We don't need to come out and do one-to-one support, because there are extraordinary organisations like NANZA, who are delivering today, doing that already, offering fantastic programmes. The issue is how fragmented the sector is. Finding that support, the information and the inspiration is so hard to find. As a person who has been now searching for the things that my son needs for 7, 8 years, I can tell you every single time a new thing comes up, I want to bang my head against the wall and think, God, not another 5 hours of research. I wanted to design a solution to start to clear the fog around our particular mountain. A place where we can start to identify all the support and services available in a central place. A place where we can identify and undertake projects to clarify information, to separate fact from fiction, where we can translate the language of the sector. Now, I came from the military charity sector, and I'll be honest, I didn't believe that anyone could out-acronym that lot. And I was wrong. I once called an organisation and I said what I needed, and she said, oh, you need to speak to the XYZ coordinator. And I said, what does XYZ mean? And she said, I don't know. I just know that's who you need to speak to. Being dropped into Send Support is like being dropped into another country without a phrasebook and being told to write a fluent legal document. It's really, really hard. Effectively, I wanted to create a tool somewhere we, organisations and families and the whole Send community can pull together so that families and sector professionals alike can focus on addressing the need. So I created the Send Unlock directory. I'm both terrified and excited to tell you, for the first time today, it's available on the Apple App Store. Google are running a little bit behind because Apple knocked them out. so Google, I'm hoping, will be up by the end of today, if not tomorrow. For the first time, organisations could register before through the website. It's all available through the website as well. You don't have to download the app. You don't have to create a registration. But if you're not registered, then you don't get to manage your entry. And if you're not a registered user or a family user, then you don't get to access all of the interactive services available. But the information belongs to everyone, so that's accessible completely. So, what's on it? Obviously, we're looking for all the statutory services. We're looking for all the charities. We're looking for all the different therapies, SALT and EPs and whatever, don't care what you do. Equipment suppliers, peer-to-peer support groups, legal support, other day-to-day services like the hairdressers and the dentists and the clothing that I mentioned earlier. Entertainment, activities, social things. I don't care what you deliver. If it's a service or an expertise that can support a family, I want you registered. And if I can't get you registered, or you don't register yourselves, I will eventually come and find you. And I will put you on there myself. But we're also looking for employers, employment programs, interesting and exciting ones. We're looking for training and apprenticeships and alternative education programs. We've got one on there, and I considered moving up north because they teach through gaming. You would never get my son out of school if that's what he could do. He would be there forever. So we're looking for anything and everything that is an exciting opportunity, that is an interesting program, that offers information, that offers support. I don't even care if you're a campaigning group. You can get yourselves on there. Your entry is fully branded you. I don't care. It's all you. And what information you put on there is up to you. You can put on there who you're regulated by, who you support, what your service is, where you deliver it. Any information that you think is important or useful, there should be an area for it. And if there's not, tell me and I will build it into it. So then for the users, it's a slightly different program because they've got access to it, but they can review your service. And if you haven't registered yourself on there, they can refer you in so that they can review you. So not registering yourself isn't going to stop you being reviewed. They can join and have their say. Now, the Have Your Say section is where we will identify questions that we feel need answering, but we will ask you as well what questions you need answering, what information you think needs to be looked into, and we will look into that. Each of our programs will be delivered through that so that every single person, every single family member can get involved and actually have their say on the important issues that are impacting their families today. And if it's a project that we're not working on yet, you can still come in and let us know what you want to know, and we will add it to the project to find it out as soon as we can. You can add recommended resources. Everyone who has been on Facebook has seen someone say, "Oh, have you looked at this book? This might help your family." There are loads of those all over the place, but actually only people who are in that thread see the recommendation. So we thought, bring it all into the centre, because actually one of my most powerful resources going through this process was other families, not sector professionals, not organisations. It was other families saying, have you tried this? Have you spoken to them? We want to know their knowledge because they've got the most. There's also a glossary. So as I mentioned before, there's a load of acronyms. Organisations can actually say what the XYZ coordinator does, because quite frankly, I have no idea. I've been told all sorts of assessments and things my son's needs, and then I have to go and look it up. And there's normally 3 different assessments with the same acronym against them. So you don't know which one they're talking about anyway. We're also developing a place where people can add their own stories. They can tell their experience of accessing support, but they can also say where they are now. This is in development, it's not there yet. But you can actually say where you are now, because I want to evidence just how much value people with SEND add to our society today. I can tell you right now that there will be neurodivergent people who worked on the COVID vaccine. I can tell you right now that the most work that has been done on solar power and solar energy was done by Elon Musk, who, whether or not you agree with what he posts on Twitter, has moved solar energy forward further than anybody else. And he is neurodivergent. Richard Branson. There are people out there all over the place doing amazing things. And I'm going to get them, and I'm going to make them put their stories on here. And, you know, if this is going out on social media, Elon Musk, I'm coming to get you. No pressure. And I want people to show the work that they're doing. I want people to open up about how extraordinary their own experience has been. Because the only way that we evidence in society just how important it is to nurture our particular mountain is to prove it. I'm trying to, at the moment, to get sponsorship together for a calendar so that everyone can put their events on there, so you can actually search in your local area for things that are going on. And then we will start our children and young people's programme, looking at the information and the stuff that they want to know. Back to people. The truth is it's new, and it's going to frighten some people. And a lot of people are going to go, oh no, it's got glitches because it's new. And they're going to go, I don't like it. And some people will say, love it, it's great, it's fantastic. But I really hope that I can bring you with us. I really hope that actually you go out there and say, actually, there's this really cool tool. And actually, if we all get involved, we can turn it into not just a cool tool, but a really fabulous one that supports the whole SEND community across the whole country. So come along, download the app, join us, get involved, upload your stuff, make your recommendations, get all of the organisations you can think of registered and working with us so that we can actually support the people who really need it. Any questions? That's everything. Am I late? Am I early? Not very good at timing myself. Any questions? No, no one's.
you did too well.
I hope I've covered everything.
I've got a question.
Oh, you would.
I would.
He's my cousin.
Quite often in our history, we've had people sort of suggesting things which are absolute rubbish, and then being quite offended that we're not taking up their suggestion.
Yep.
I won't say which members of our family that is, but, but will there be quality control, or will it be a case of the community just saying, actually, that's not worked?
No. So every organisation goes through a registration process and has to be checked to ensure that it actually does deliver something. Every recommended resource goes through the same process. So you can't just come in and go, oh, I've got this children's book. It has to actually be relevant. When it comes to the reviews, there are strict controls around certain languages, and there are very strict visitor conduct rules. And if an organisation flags something to us and it's broken those rules, that person will either be suspended or removed, depending upon how badly it breaks the rules. But as regards the actual data, the actual information, every single thing will be verified and checked before it is registered. Yes?
I think this is a great idea. I've actually just noted it down to make sure that we add one of our groups to there.
Great.
Support for parents.
Brilliant.
I was just wondering, how do you make sure that it's going to stay up to date?
Yeah, so from an organisational perspective, we will be sending, we have a process where we do an assessment every sort of year of an organisation's record, and we send them that assessment, and we'll check that they haven't closed down or whatever. The resources, again, it's slightly more difficult because we won't know immediately if an Amazon link breaks or something like that, or if it's suddenly out of print. But we will have an assessment process again every couple of years just to go through each one and check. We've used a system called Salesforce, which is a massive international CRM platform. So if we get it really well in this country, then we can just take over the world. But within that, we have built in processes where it will automatically say, right, today you need to check this organisation, today you need to do this. And so our team literally every day go through, do the assessments, which are an automatic sort of run-off of check it's still live, check it's still going, and then we send it off. The data is slightly different. If we were doing a project, say, based around the language and timeframes of an EHCP, then you just have to have a team who are monitoring and watching what things are being worked on, what things are being changed or edited. But organisations also, if they want it, have a login so they can update their record whenever they want to. So it's not any one thing. There's lots of different checks and ideas and ways that and that will develop as it grows, as it improves, as we add more and more onto it. We'll just keep developing the maintenance side.
Sounds great. Another question. Will there be access to? Because I think that what our group is struggling with at the moment is funding to keep running the group. Is there going to be any information about funders on and support?
So at the moment, it's not been our priority, but what we have put on there is a way of building partnerships. So if you wanted to create a partnership with someone, or if you wanted to contact someone, you can obviously get in touch with them through the normal routes and say, you know, we would really like to partner with you. And this is part of the thing is organisations are part of the fragmentation. They're not working together closely enough. So actually, within the framework of this, we want to work with organisations to identify how they can work more closely together and what services they need inside the system that can help them to create those relationships, to share best practice, to look at, funding smaller organisations. Your peer-to-peer support group may actually suit one of the larger charitable organisations really well who deliver those things, and they may say, well, come inside that group. And so what we want to do as part of the development of the directory itself is work with organisations and build a committee of organisations who can tell us what will best work for them to create those links and to bring those organisations together more effectively. Because what I don't want this to ever be is us saying, we think this is what you need. Because there's far too many people saying, oh, we think this is what you need. We're going to tell you what you need. Actually, I want you to tell us what's going to grow and expand and support your organisation to expand more people. So you tell us what you need and how you think that would best work, and we'll map it out and develop it and build it. Hello.
With regards to that,
yes.
You're saying about you tell us what you need. What if it's a parent that doesn't know what he or she needs?
Yeah, so this is one of the things that actually, this is where it sort of comes from. My son was diagnosed first when he was 6, although I knew there was something going on a long time before that. And I found that nobody volunteered anything. Nobody volunteered information, nobody volunteered nobody even said to me, there may be something going on with him, you might want to have him assessed. They just said I was a rubbish parent, actually. Or I'm a single parent, and that was a big thing as well. And of course, because I work as well. So all of those things went against me and made me a bad parent. And I had no idea what to do or where to go. And so for parents, and this is where we're going out to parents, because we want to understand what type of information and support you would have needed when you knew there was something going on. What do you think would have helped you at that point? Is it just a page that is new parents?
Yeah.
Just a page that is new parents, right? These are the first things to consider. These are the first areas to go. This is how you can search through the directory for supporting organisations in your area. Or is it something more than that? Do they need something extra?
Yeah. Is it
So
something that you haven't thought of yet, and that would then guide the app would then guide the parent
exactly.
through that? Oh, that is fantastic.
We haven't built it yet. I'll be honest, I have spent the last 3 years in a development hole just getting to this point. So I feel a bit like a mole who's come out into the sunlight at the moment, because I'm standing in front of people. And the last time I did this, I had to take my shoes off because it was all too stressful. Because I spend my days literally in the development hole. And Emma over there, this is Emma who works with me. She spends her days contacting organisations and getting them registered and getting them on the system, because the development of the core directory is obviously the first step. But then from there, understanding what people really feel that would have helped them on stage 1 coming in, that's a huge priority for me, because when I came into it, I had no idea.
Yeah, there's so many parents out there that just don't understand, crying in front of you,
Yeah.
saying, what do I do? How do I go about this? Where do I go?
Yeah.
Right, okay, well, you can go this one and this one and this one and this one. And
Exactly.
This one, I'll tell you the same as that one.
And this is what I want this to be. I want this to be a tool where a teacher can say, do you know what? Why don't you go and download the Send Directory app? And well, yeah, I know, but actually, I'm actually talking to several local authorities at the moment who are really excited about this. And they're not excited about it from the perspective of, oh, we don't have to do the local offer anymore. They're actually excited about it from the perspective of, well, wait a minute, if we engage with this tool, maybe actually we can improve our communication with families as well. And I thought they would be really negative and really sort of go, oh, I don't want to speak to you. And a couple of them have been defensive, but they've then come back and gone, oh, actually, you're not here to bash us. You're not here to beat us up. You're actually here to talk to us about the positives and the exciting things of what could go forward. And Norfolk County Council have been really open, and one of the ones that we've been looking at. So I'm really feeling really positive about that.
And
because
also, sorry, can I just interrupt? And also you said about schools, or good luck with that one. Actually, I've been in talks with several schools, and the Senkos are absolutely thrilled that they can give some point of connection for that parent to start. They're absolutely thrilled by it.
Emma used to work in schools, so she knows
So
who to speak to.
Every school
Yep,
in the Norfolk area, you're going to contact.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And going to pinpoint parents to send unlocked.
That is fantastic.
And I've been really, because I did think, because of my personal experience accessing support, and it was some years ago now, so things have moved on a lot since then, I did think I was going to come up against a brick wall. And actually, it's been the opposite.
Norfolk have just, they're starting a new service for education and family.
Yes.
I don't know what it's called, but
Parent
it's
champions?
no, it was they're education and family workers, but they're recruiting 60 practitioners across Norfolk to help the school and the family with children with SEND, which I think is like the first time I've ever heard that they're doing something. It's not just educational psychologists; it's people actually going into schools and doing that work with the school and the family.
They're doing a huge amount of new projects. There's a lot of change and it's been coming for a while. Sorry, you've had your hand up for a while, and we've got 6 minutes. I'm going to get in so much trouble.
I'm almost like that because I'm the Family Hub's participation officer.
Yes.
And at the moment we're forming the parent and carer panels and consulting with them about how we're going to shape the service over the next couple of years. So I've been really interested in getting in touch with you
Brilliant.
and bringing you into that mix. So
Yeah,
you
fantastic.
can also consult with those, with the parents of those, families. So yeah.
Amazing. Well, when we go upstairs, I'll give you my card because they're all on the desk upstairs at the moment. I didn't bring them down with me. That's Emma's job, and she forgot.
I brought them.
Oh, she did. Yeah, brilliant. Just give me a call and we'll get something in the
It
diary.
might be that somebody has already spoke to you. I don't know regarding the Family Hubs, but if they
Honestly, I've been in a development hole for about 3 weeks to get this live for download today, so I don't know who I've spoken to.
I think you're going to be really busy.
I really hope so. I really hope so.
I think it's great.
Thank you. I'm really pleased. And it just comes from the perspective of, a mum. I just happened to be,
So great.
I was the head of IT for a military charity, and I just brought that across into this sector.
Is there a fee?
No,
Any type of fee?
no.
Brilliant.
We're a charity, and the most important thing for me was that it was free to the end user. And of course, you can't charge an organisation if you're putting them on yourself. So, but organisations can sponsor us. They can get involved and be a part of it and donate or give grants or whatever. I know she's waving at me saying you're over time, and I told you I was going to go over time. I'm really bad at timing things. So they've got 4 minutes until the next talk. So anything else quickly? Oh yes, hello.
I just wanted to congratulate yourself and Emma. I know we met a couple of months ago.
We
when
did.
You first told me the story. I find it really inspiring, and I'd like to endorse what you've said about your positive relationship with Norfolk County Council.
Oh, thank you, because Karen is the chairman of Norfolk County Council. I've just outed you.
Yeah, it's outed me, but I can endorse what you've said, and I'm sure that there will be a positive collaboration.
Yeah, we're really excited about the conversations we've had with Norfolk County Council, which is brilliant. So there's huge amounts of change coming. So that's positive change.